Welcome to the Action Network studio in New York City. I'm Maria Marino, and this is Green Dot Daily. We're live every weekday at 3 Eastern on the Action app. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. On today's show, we've got picks all ready for NFL Week 5, plus an MLB playoff preview with Anthony Dabbundo. But we start with the worst beats of the week according to Action Network's luck rankings. The Raiders were expected to beat a banged-up Chargers team, but did not. Falcons were projected at a tie with the Jaguars, but lost badly. And the Bears, of course, blew a big lead against Denver. As a refresher, our luck rankings grade teams using what's called luck percentage, which is the difference between expected and actual win percentage. Unlucky teams are often undervalued when there's a large luck disparity between them and their opponents. Responsible for building the luck rankings week to week is our predictive analyst, Dr. Nick Giffen. All right, so which teams can now call themselves the unluckiest in the NFL?
Yeah, going right to the bottom three. The third most unlucky team, so 30th in our luck rankings, is the Chicago Bears. You just mentioned they suffered that bad beat there. They were one of the bottom three unlucky teams of the week, blowing that lead to the Denver Broncos, and they're just one of two winless teams remaining in the NFL. The second most unlucky team, the Minnesota Vikings. They move off the bottom line to second most unlucky. They did pick up their first win of the season against the Carolina Panthers, but their three losses are all one-score games. So they are 0-3 in one-score games, just showing that bad luck there in the close game department. Finally, unluckiest team so far this year, the Cleveland Browns, which is pretty interesting that we have a 2-2 team, more unlucky than the 0-4 teams. Cleveland has actually been expected to win at 82%, which, obviously you can't win a partial game, but they should be around a 3-1 team instead of 2-2, mostly thanks to the loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers, where Pittsburgh scored 2 defensive touchdowns there. Otherwise, they probably would have blown out the Steelers. So Cleveland sitting there, unluckiest team in the NFL at 2-2.
Yeah, that was a very winnable game for the Browns back in week 2, which they lost by only 4 points. How about the luckiest team so far this season?
Yeah, it's funny. We've got the same top 3 as last week, just in a little bit different order. Starting with the third luckiest team of the season, it is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They should not be 3-1. They should be more like a 2-2 team. Week 4 was the first of the 4 games they've played so far where they weren't lucky. They had a 26-9 win versus the New Orleans Saints, and our expected score had that right at 26-8. So pretty much in line with expectations. But all 3 other games that the Buccaneers have played, they've been lucky. Number 2 luckiest team of the season, the Philadelphia Eagles. They leapfrog Tampa Bay, going from 3 last week to 2 this week. They had another 1-score win after that overtime win versus the Washington Commanders. So that moves Philadelphia to 3-0 in 1-score games. They've been on a 1-score game tear here. They were 7-1 last year in 1-score games, 3-0 already in 2023. Finally, we're keeping it in the state of Pennsylvania for the luckiest team, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. So a whole state of Pennsylvania there, pretty lucky at number 2 and number 1. But the Pittsburgh Steelers have the lowest offensive expected score in the league, even behind the Zach Wilson-led New York Jets. So not looking too great there offensively for the Pittsburgh Steelers as they head into a division rivalry this week.
Indeed, big game for them ahead. Now, based on your algorithm, is there a play that you like heading into week 5?
Yeah, it's not an official play yet, not an official pick, but we are looking at the Carolina Panthers +9 right now versus the Detroit Lions. This game has a luck difference of 24, which meets our threshold of 24 or more difference in the standings. And it has a luck gap of 43%, which is pretty close to our 50% threshold. But remember, we only need to meet one threshold. Typically later in the year, it's going to be the luck difference threshold, not the luck gap threshold because luck tends to regress to the mean, so it's hard to get really large gaps. We can still get really high differences in the standings, and that's what we have here with Carolina and Detroit, a 24 place difference in the luck rankings. Unlucky teams meeting at least one of those thresholds: 103, 58, and 6 for 63.5% against the spread since 2018. And if they're a road team meeting at least one of those thresholds, then it's 54, 21, and 3 against the spread, 71.2% against the spread for road unlucky teams meeting at least one threshold since 2018. But here's the reason it's not an official pick. I think we can wait on this because over 80% of the tickets, over 80% of the money is coming in on Detroit right now. So we can definitely wait this out. I want to see if we can get 9.5, even to that key number of 10, right? A touchdown, extra point, and field goal. I think we can get to that 10 number right now with public and the big money all coming in on Detroit. So we're going to wait it out on this one. And while it is a luck ranking game, remember, these are against the closing lines. So we have time to wait on this to see if it does get up to that 10 plus 10 for the Panthers there.
It makes sense. Money coming in on the Lions. They're a very public team thus far. 3-1 ATS this year. The Panthers 0-4 ATS. So maybe they're due for some luck. Nick Giffen, thank you.
Yeah, anytime.
Sticking with the NFL, following a huge pick six last night by Devin Witherspoon for Seattle, let's check on the odds for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Jalen Carter is the favorite at -125. Witherspoon's at +300. Then Will Anderson and Brian Branch are tied at +800. With that, we say hello to Chad Millman and Simon Hunter. And Chad, you're invested in this race. You bet Jalen Carter before the season at a great value, I believe 7-1. How are you feeling about this now?
Well, I still feel pretty good about it, but I will tell you, and all credit to Simon, who we discussed this on the Favorites podcast in the preseason, looking at preseason odds and where some value might be. And we liked Jalen Carter. And Simon had something that was very smart when he said, this is a narrative award. And what that means is that voters will vote on it based on sort of who has had the highest profile season, not necessarily the best season. And Jalen Carter, because the Eagles have so many primetime games, was going to be in a position to make big plays in big moments when voters were paying attention. So that happened a couple weeks ago against the Bucs. He had a sack, immediately followed by a forced fumble. All of a sudden, Jalen Carter goes from 7-1 to leading the pack for Defensive Rookie of the Year. And what happens last night? Devin Witherspoon, who from the time the game started, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck could not stop talking about how much they loved him. Troy Aikman at one point compared him to Deion Sanders because they both wear number 21. And then Devin Witherspoon went on to get a pick six, had a great game. All of a sudden, his odds are at +300. So I really need Jalen Carter to play well in his remaining primetime games. I think that might be my salvation, is that the Eagles just have more primetime games left this year than the Seattle Seahawks.
Simon, I want a thought from you, but first of all, you can get used to Chad giving you all this credit.
Yeah, he's very friendly here, not so much on our show.
That is a lie. You're the one who's mean to me.
Yeah, right.
But, I mean, you clearly agree with Chad.
Yeah, Jalen Carter, we loved him coming into the year. He was my number one graded player in the draft. It's all the off the field stuff, right? That's the big question with Jalen Carter. So, yeah, right now, looking at him on paper, I think any stat nerd could tell you this. This is just me personally. I've seen other places have him ranked number one. He's my number 2 graded tackle through 4 weeks. Aaron Donald's number 1. Some sites had that flip-flop. They have Jalen Carter, a rookie, as the number 1 graded D tackle in all of football, just because I think he's up to 11 pressures or 12 pressures through the first 4 weeks. He's just an incredible player, and Chad nailed it. Like the previous week, Jalen Carter got that fumble. Everyone saw it on the Monday night. It was all talked about all week. His odds shot way up, and, we saw what happened last night. You get a pick six in prime time and you're a rookie, your odds are going to shoot up. So I'm with Chad. I'm still not worried, but if you are, hedge out then. You can take a position right now on the other guys. It's too early for me to really take a position at this point. So, yeah, I'm with Chad. I'm still happy with the Jalen Carter bet.
And not to take away from the performance of Witherspoon, but leave it to Daniel Jones to help someone's bid for a defensive award. DJ now 2 touchdowns, 6 picks on the year, a quarterback rating of 37. I'm not over it, so I had to vent about that. But I want to look ahead to week 5, starting with another team that made the Giants look silly, the Cowboys. They play the 49ers Sunday night, and Dak Prescott was asked to rehash their divisional playoff meeting earlier this year.
Dak, what was the feeling leaving that locker room last January against those guys?
I mean, it's obvious. I mean, we're so far past that, to be honest with you, but that's obvious. I mean, you just want to piss me off going into this week, and I appreciate that. I do, actually. I do. Yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Does that loss drive you guys?
I mean, every day. Every day. Every day, Ty, every day.
So, despite a highly motivated Dak, you like the 49ers, Simon. Tell us why.
Yeah, I'm sure Dak was highly motivated last year when he lost to a 7th-round rookie in the playoffs in this exact scenario. So, it's just simply I think the 49ers have gotten better since last year, and I don't really see that with the Cowboys. The Cowboys are very talented. I still have the Eagles and the 49ers kind of in their own tier above this Cowboys team, and I'm happy to pay to lose this bet. Like, to me, Purdy, yes, he hasn't looked as great as he did last year. I think he has looked better in the little things, the little details, which is what I wanted to see from this guy in his second year. But the real truth is, it's just this offense around for this 49ers team. It all goes through McCaffrey, and who's playing better in football right now than McCaffrey? Not known. So looking at this matchup, it's really about the Shanahan run blocking scheme going against Dallas, which they are incredible at rushing the passer, and they're incredible at stopping passes downfield, but they are bad against the run. And we already know that's what the 49ers want to do here. So to me, this is a number that the public will come in on the Cowboys. I feel like we've already seen the early money, the professional money is coming on the 49ers. Got the 4 at some books, and it came back down to 3.5. I still like it at -3.5. And it just feels like come Sunday night, the public will come in on this Cowboys number, while the pros, I feel like they'll just take the 49ers here at home at a good number.
Chad, did you want to tack anything onto this, or is this just another Simon bandwagon play?
Well, I am bandwagoning, but I also have full belief in myself on the Niners. I'm making the Niners my pick in this game. Look, better coach, better offense, better defense. I don't think there's anyone who's less intimidating when he's angry than Dak Prescott on a football field. He has not proven anything in his career, honestly. Like, at what point in his career has he proven, hey, when I'm more motivated, as Simon points out, you weren't motivated when you played him last year in the playoffs. Like, when I'm more motivated, I'm going to be even better. Like, Mike McCarthy has consistently failed in high pressure positions as a coach and as a play caller. Dak has not succeeded in high pressure positions as a quarterback. I have no reason to believe they can go into San Francisco against a better team, a better coach, and cover this number. I think this is where the Niners anoint themselves as the team to beat in the NFC.
Fair enough. Well, another matchup on your radar. Titans-Colts at 1 o'clock Eastern Sunday, a pair of 500 teams. In fact, every team in the AFC South is 2-2. But this is the first divisional matchup for the Titans. Chad, where do you lean and why?
I'm leaning to the Colts only because Simon was so mean to me in our show, The Favorites, when we talked about it on Sunday night, that I felt like I had no choice. I was just asking him a question, and we will dig deeper on why he felt he needed to berate me. Maybe he was just tired. It was the end of the weekend. I know it's very hard the weekends, but I took the Colts. Look, I think part of it is the Titans were so good this past weekend, and it was a smash spot on the Titans. We loved them at +2.5. Similarly, when they go back on the road, even though they're a very short dog, and we love Mike Vrabel as a dog, it might be a time to fade them. I can't pinpoint it, and maybe Simon will be able to, but the Colts have found ways to stay in games every single week, no matter who's playing quarterback. And to me, that's a testament to something about the way they're being coached and the way they're making adjustments at halftime, especially we saw it this weekend against the Rams. So it's hard to bet against them as a very short home favorite.
Okay, Simon, waiting for the rebuttal.
No, nothing nice thing. That Chad's just soft. I was super nice to him. I just said, "Are you sure you want to take the Titans?" That's literally what I asked him. Just wanted to make sure he wasn't going to take the Titans, and he's not. I think the Colts here, the public will come in on the Titans. The Titans just blew out Joe Burrow. They looked amazing. This Colts team, people don't trust Richardson. They don't trust this rookie head coach. They're going to go with Vrabel in this spot. I feel like in a divisional game, if you're catching under 3 against this Titans team on the road, you're just going to take the home team. I don't care who they're playing. It could have been C.J. Stroud in Houston. I would take the rookie QB at home in this divisional game against Tennessee that they're going to struggle with these running quarterbacks. If a guy can't move, I think, yes, that's when I back Tennessee. Mobile quarterbacks, guys who can move, you saw with Watson in that Cleveland team. If you can get outside the pocket, get away from these D tackles that they had that are so good on Tennessee, they have a small secondary. They have really small guys on the outside. Richardson, there are only a couple guys on that field that are going to be way more than him. So if he gets outside the pocket, starts running, that's going to be a huge problem for this Tennessee team. So the fact that the books, everyone thinks they're being really nice to them, giving Vrabel as a dog here against his rookie coach, his rookie QB, it's a fishy line. I knew right away when it came out that if this was 3, I'm with Chad. I would have liked Tennessee in this spot. Under what it's at now, 1.5 -1. That's a really good number for a Colts team. Expecting Jonathan Taylor back this week. That could be a really potent offense once he gets in that lineup.
So it sounds like while Chad thought Simon was being mean to him, he was actually looking out for you, Chad, and making sure that you weren't going to go the wrong way here. We got one more game we want to ask you both about, an interesting one for New England following Bill Belichick's worst margin of defeat in his career, taking on the Saints. Simon, a thought on that?
Yeah, and it's honestly just a bet on the Patriots defense being so injured. They've lost Judon now, and we think they lost their number 1 corner, the rookie. So it's just all bad in New England. The vibes are bad. Everything's just super negative. And usually I'd want to bet on this team to bounce back here. But the Saints defense is so good. After losing that game at home against the Bucs now they're playing against Mac and this really bad offense. I love this spot for this Saints team. And it's interesting. People have kind of given up on the Saints team just because Derek Carr got hurt against Green Bay. They lose that game. He comes back, I felt like a little too early. Really couldn't do anything against that Bucs team. And we saw just all this money coming now in this Patriots team this week. I think the pros are just going to keep betting this Patriots team until they lose it all. I'm not going to keep riding this Mac Jones thing. I think he's the issue on this team. I get the hesitation. If people are like, well, I want to see Derek Carr practice this week before I bet this. Totally get it. I'm just grabbing this number early in case it does move. I'm grabbing the 1.5. I've seen some 2s pop. So it is a number that I understand that people hesitation because of Derek Carr, but I think there is still value there early in the week.
Chad, you're on board as well?
Yeah, I like this game a lot. By the way, I cannot believe you're giving Simon reasons to backtrack and taking his side in this. But,
I'm not
Maria,
taking a side. I'm just trying to, I'm calling it like I see it.
I expected, that too, Maria. That too. Yeah, look, I bet the Saints as soon as I saw that Judon had the torn bicep yesterday. Patriots captain Dietrich Weiss was talking about Judon as if he was going to be out for the entire season. You saw Christian Gonzalez leave the field with a shoulder injury in their game this past weekend. Those were the 2 main reasons to love the Patriots defense. And the wise guys, as Simon said, have been loving the Patriots all season so far because that defense has been so good, not because of anything Mac Jones can do. And I feel like with the Saints coming in very short dogs in this game, this is an opportunity for the Saints to improve a little bit and find a way to get their offense a little bit healthy, which has been dreadful. And there were a lot of expectations preseason for the Saints to be pretty good and to run away with their division. They're not going to be able to do that. But this feels like a good spot to back a short dog in New Orleans.
Yeah, Saints trying to avoid 3 straight losses. And Chad, you know what? I think you're right. I think what I really need to do is just go back, watch the tape, and see for myself whether or not Simon was truly being mean. And then I'll make a judgment.
I appreciate you being open-minded and thinking about this. That is really, that's big of you. And that's what I like most about you.
See how we turned this around? Now Chad's happy with me. So we're all good.
I like it. I like it.
Catch Chad Millman and Simon Hunter on the Favorites podcast every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Guys, thanks so much for joining Green Dot Daily. To baseball, and playoffs get underway today. In the AL wildcard, Rangers and Rays are already in progress, and starting at 4:30 Eastern, it's the Blue Jays and Twins. In the NL, Diamondbacks take on the Brewers at 7 Eastern, with the Marlins and Phillies at 8. So let's bring in our MLB expert, Anthony Dabbundo. You have a pick on Game 1 between Minnesota and Toronto. Give it to us.
Yeah, so Minnesota has not won a playoff game since 2004. They have the longest drought going right now. And look, it's been a tough time for Twins fans. They've had a lot of playoff trauma, but I'm backing them today. -110 at home against Kevin Gausman and the Toronto Blue Jays. Look, when you just kind of analyze this matchup, first off, let's start with the starting pitchers. There's a growing consensus that there may be a tell that the Twins have found with Kevin Gausman and specifically his splitter. So Gausman's splitter is one of the best pitches in all of baseball, is a 43% whiff rate, plus 23 run value, one of the best in all of baseball in the last 2 seasons on that splitter. But when he's faced the Twins in the last 2 years, they've been very effective at not chasing it out of the zone. And then when they do swing at it, making contact. So if you look at just the 2 meetings this year, he has they've whiffed less than 25% of the time against it in both meetings. And then you can look at walks. Gausman allowed 4 walks in his 2 meetings, each meeting with the Twins this year. He only did that in one of his other 28 starts this season. So he has been dominant against everybody except Minnesota. And you can even look from chase rate to walk rate to contact rates on that pitch. So the Twins may have something on Gausman, and even if they don't, and that's just random variance, Lopez has been the better pitcher, start-to-start basis this season. He has the better expected metrics, expected ERA, stuff plus, grades out better. And the Twins' bullpen and lineup is pretty comparable overall. Twins actually have the better WRC plus against right-handed pitching this season. So I think the Twins have some advantages here. The biggest knock on the Twins is the schedule. They played by the math the weakest schedule in MLB this year, and that's product of playing in the AL Central. The Central teams have not performed well in the playoffs in the last 5 years. But I think this Minnesota team has the depth, and I think they have the return of Royce Lewis to look forward to as they win their first playoff game today in many, many years, 19 years, as Lopez showed up today wearing Johan Santana's jersey, who was the starter when the Twins last won a playoff game. So looking forward to that matchup and rolling with Minnesota -110 at home.
Yeah, that is a long time. So hopefully some good juju for them. And we're going to talk more Twins big picture in a moment. But to the NL side of the slate, how are you playing that tonight?
Yeah, so the first game is Arizona and Milwaukee. We've got Brandon Pfaadt going up against Corbin Burns. I think the number's about right from a side and total perspective, but I do like one prop and one angle that I think the Diamondbacks are going to have to do to try to even this series a little bit because they are at a disadvantage from a pitching perspective. How do they equalize that? Stealing extra bases and dominating on defense and on the base paths where they do have their strengths as a team this season. Arizona. This year, Milwaukee was one of the worst teams in the league at holding runners. It was a major problem for them. Victor Caratini, the expected starting catcher tonight, 56th out of 63 catchers in caught stealing rate, catcher caught stealing. And Corbin Burns had major problems holding runners. The MLB average coming into this season was 24% caught stealing rate. Burns, for his career, 16%. And he's really struggled to hold on to runners, and it has affected his command and his performance as well. So Arizona did tag him in a big way when they played this season. But I think really, if you look at the steals bet, Caesars has Arizona over 1.5 steals at +139. That's where I'm targeting this game. I'd bet that down to +130. I just think that Arizona can really run on this team, and that's how they're going to equalize and try to steal a game tonight.
Looking for them to steal a game, looking for steals in general. Very interesting one. As promised, though, with the playoffs just getting started, perfect time to talk futures. I alluded to this before. On the AL side of things, you actually like the Twins.
Yes, I like the Twins a lot more now that they don't have to go up against Houston, which looked like was going to be the case about a couple of days ago until Houston went and stole the American League West. So the Twins now get what I think is a better first-round matchup against Toronto, a team that I'm generally lower on. But I really like the Twins' pitching depth and versatility. If you look at the top of the American League with Baltimore and Houston and Texas and even Tampa to a lesser extent, like the starting pitching depth just isn't really there beyond 1 or 2 starters. But this Minnesota team has three guys that are very good in Sonny Gray and Pablo Lopez and Joe Ryan. And then they have a couple of guys in Bailey Ober and Kenta Maeda who can kind of serve as a hybrid between starter and reliever in the bullpen if needed. Maeda threw 3 1/3 the other day out of the bullpen, so they're kind of getting him ready for that role. He's got a lot of breaking balls. Ober has a lot of deception, and they've got some flamethrowers. They've got Chris Paddock back from Tommy John. He's throwing 100 out of the bullpen. He used to be a starter before the injury. So they have so much versatility with their pitching, and their lineup, has been very boom or bust. So they strike out a lot, which makes them high risk. They could run cold, but they also hit a lot of homers, and homers win in the playoffs. So if this lineup gets hot for a week or two, you could see Minnesota make a run here. They're not all that dissimilar offensively to what the Phillies were last season from a boom or bust home run strikeout perspective. And so at 8-1 to win the American League, they're my favorite American League pick to come out there. Best value play on the board.
You mentioned earlier the Twins fans and all of their trauma. I hope they're enjoying this right now. But on the NL side, what do you got?
Some would say false hope, maybe. I'm giving the Twins fans. I don't know. But I do have a lot of hope for the Phils, my Phils. I'm a homer as I am, but from an objective perspective, I think the Phillies are the team that's best poised to take out Atlanta. And in the National League, you really have to go through the juggernaut that has been the Braves offense and what they've been dominant this year. 125 WRC plus, tied the major league record for home runs in a single season. And it's going to be very hard, I think, to beat them in a 7-game series because their lineup is so good. And then, as much pitching as you might have, it's going to be hard to knock them out in that round where the Dodgers or the Brewers would have to do that. But in a 5-game series, Atlanta's going to be at its most vulnerable early in the playoffs because Charlie Morton is out, starting pitcher 3. Starting pitcher 2, Max Fried, goes to the injured list with blisters. He's going to come back for the first time and pitch in the first time in 20 days in the game 2 of the NLDS, probably against the Phillies. And so if he's not quite right, they're really short on pitching, and they're going to be in some big trouble against the Phillies. So the Phillies offense, we know what that can do. But really what I like about the Phillies this year is their bullpen. Last year, they came into the playoffs 2.5 reliable relievers. This year, from a stuff perspective, they were the number 2 bullpen in baseball. They have a ton of different arms from the left and the right they can throw. And they actually have some starting pitching depth this year. So I think the Phillies, as all of these teams had so many pitcher injuries in the National League, especially with Atlanta and LA, it's actually the Phillies that come in with the most depth from a pitching perspective. They've been the healthiest, and that could play a difference this month. So Phillies plus 750 to win the National League. My favorite long shot bet in that league, favorite value play on the board.
I totally trust you to be objective. I totally do, for real though. Because I feel like, sometimes when you're a fan, you can get too close to it. But also, sometimes that just means you know the team super well and, can be realistic about their expectations. But for more where this came from, check out the Payoff Pitch podcast. Full playoff preview is out now. Anthony, thank you.
Thanks for having me. And I hope everybody enjoys the baseball.
It's time for Tim's Takeaways with Tim Kalinowski. And Tim joins us now. So Monday Night Football was fun if you enjoy punting. But you posted this last night, quote, Daniel Jones is just fast Mac Jones. Pretty clever. And that got us wondering, who's the worst Jones at this point, Daniel or Mac?
Yeah, it is tough that I have to pick one of these 2 quarterbacks. And, I just want to preface it by saying grading these 2 quarterbacks is actually completely unfair because neither of which will ever get a true answer on unless they jump to a better system. I kind of used the Jared Goff situation with the Rams and with the Lions as my gold standard for a mediocre quarterback that can function and run a pretty decent offense if all the pieces around him are good enough. And the problem with Mac Jones and Daniel Jones is we'll never really get that, or, we don't expect to get that. So it might be some recency bias after watching how bad the Patriots were. And Daniel Jones, it's not like he completely outplayed Mac Jones, but I think Mac Jones might be the worst of these Joneses. When you just compare them side by side here in their career, Mac Jones and Daniel Jones, nearly identical completion percentage, nearly identical quarterback rating, and nearly identical yards per game. But what makes Daniel Jones a little bit better is his legs. He can rush. So if you put these guys in the situations that they are right now, inferior offensive lines, poor weapons, I take Daniel Jones just because of his legs. And that's like the only thing that can alleviate that type of situation.
I hear you. And it's funny, like, I feel like this is the opposite of what we all expected to happen, like when both of these quarterbacks were drafted. But I think for both of them, they're like quarterbacks that can be solid, to your point, if things around them are decent. Like, they won't like lose you games, but they're not the quarterback that's going to step on the field and be the difference maker and win you the game when you're shorthanded or you don't have the proper players around them. And who would have thought, by the way, we'd be talking about how bad the Joneses are instead of Zach Wilson this week.
Yeah, Zach Wilson got exempt from the conversation. I thought Zach Wilson was like 3 tiers higher than these two from his play on Sunday night. And if it wasn't for Taylor Swift, which I love, by the way, feed me more Taylor Swift. We could have used her last night in the Monday Night Football game. We really could have. It would have been a great distraction. So yeah, Zach Wilson better than these two right now in my brain.
All right. I'm glad that you're admitting that you are eating up the Taylor Swift content. By the way, I saw you were in Kentucky this weekend, even hung out with our pal Stuck. How was that?
Yeah, Lexington took a lot of years off my life, just like watching those two Joneses. But crazy story. So I'm in Kentucky and betting just went live there. So I opened, I did all the bonuses and the free bets and all that sort of stuff. And my flight out of Kentucky was on Sunday morning at 7:30 in the morning. So basically didn't go to bed from Saturday night to Sunday morning. And as the plane's about to take off, I'm like, I don't know if these bets like transfer over into Massachusetts, whatever. So let me just throw this 9-leg ridiculous parlay. I'm half asleep, half hungover. So I placed this 9-leg parlay, $10, and I'm watching the Monday night game last night and it ends. And so at the end of the night, I kind of do a little accounting and see, what was I up in the week? What was I down in the week? I open my FanDuel account and I'm up $1,000 more than I expected. I'm sitting there, I'm going, where did this come from? Look, I'm like, did I fat finger a zero? And I'm not seeing anything. None of this is adding up to 1,000. So then I realized, I go, I was in Kentucky. Let me open the bets I placed in Kentucky tab. Sure enough, I find this parlay. I completely forgot about it. It was like, but I did. My thing is, again, no one feels bad for the guy that just won $1,000, but I didn't get to sweat it and like check off all the teams as it went. So I'm kind of feeling like, if a parlay hits in the forest, if a parlay hits in the forest and no one sees it, did it hit?
Okay, so that's your takeaway. It's basically like picks or it didn't happen type of thing.
100%. I might as well have just found some money in my winter coat. Like, I didn't get any of the excitement of this. I just opened it up. What a great problem to have, huh? Where did this $1,000 come from?
Well, we got excitement here on the show listening to you. Tim Kalinowski, thanks so much for stopping by.
Yeah, and I'll let you know the next time I place one of those, Maria.
Okay, thanks so much. Remember, any picks we give out here on the show, you can easily reference by following green.daily in the Action app. We keep track so you don't have to. And that's going to do it for Green.Daily. I'm Maria Marino. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow at 3 Eastern on the Action Network YouTube channel and the Action app.